Hi everyone, I'm Coach Diana with Complete Performance Coaching. And I am one of the coaches of the team, and I really, I work with athletes from all sports, kind of ages 9 through college. But my background personally was in gymnastics. And so that's kind of where I have the most certainly personal background, and it is actually what got me into sports psychology. So today I want to spend some time talking about helping athletes kind of get over the fear of talking to their coaches. This is something that's come up a lot in my practice. I hear so many people, athletes, being nervous or scared or intimidated to go talk to their coaches. So I first want to start off by saying that, in my opinion, I really feel like it is the coach's responsibility to create an environment where kids feel safe, where they feel safe to actually come and talk to you, where they don't fear the repercussions of what's going to happen if they come and talk to you. Whether it's, telling you that they don't understand something, or telling you that they're afraid of something, or even telling you that they disagree with something that you're doing. So while I put a lot of the responsibility on the coaches, because I absolutely do feel that it's the environment that they create is what kids feed off of. However, that being said, there are also things that parents can do and athletes can do to kind of help the situation and facilitate it. So for parents, I have a couple of tips for you. So one thing is, certainly if you have a child that is outgoing otherwise, maybe not afraid to talk to other adults, teachers, whatever, but then they seem so different with gym, or whatever their sport is, where they don't want to talk to their coach, I would encourage you to probe a little bit on that and find out what's going on. Because it might be something that maybe you can just kind of help them understand a little bit. Like, there might be something that happened. They might have even seen a teammate go and talk to their coach, and your child feels like they got yelled at. And it might be something that happened away from them where they couldn't hear what was going on. And so, you as a parent can kind of help them understand that perhaps that isn't what happened. Or if it is, maybe we just don't know the circumstances or what was happening, what was said. And so, before they get scared that that's going to happen to them, then, maybe let's let go of what we don't know exactly. So certainly if you have a child that is outgoing and they're not when they go to practice, in terms of talking to their coaches, I would probe and kind of find out why, what it is that scares them. If, on the other hand, you have a pretty timid child and they're scared to talk to their coaches, I really think that parents can do a lot to just kind of help their child get prepared and feel comfortable talking to their coaches, assuming that the environment is one that's inviting for that. So a couple of things that I would say to do. First, even before anything major happens or there's an issue, I would suggest parents helping their child go to talk to their coach by giving them things to tell their coach, or maybe even like a note that you are giving to your child to give to the coach. And that note might be something for real, and it might be something that you put in the note. Look, I just want you to know I'm trying to help my child be more comfortable talking to his or her coaches. So this is a note just to help that process along. Because that just gives them, a place where they start from. So they have to go by themselves up to the coach, hand them a piece of paper, and it's nothing about their sport or their anything. And the coach, especially if you just say, I'm just trying to help my child get more comfortable, the coach might smile, laugh, say thank you, do something that makes them feel a little bit more comfortable. And so then the next time it might be a little bit less scary to walk up to their coach and hand them a note from mom or dad, or pass along a message from mom or dad verbally that you tell them. So, and I would do that multiple times until your child doesn't hesitate when you tell them or ask them, can you give this to your coach today? And maybe see, if the coach says anything like, wow, your son or daughter is starting to open up. It's amazing. So that's one thing that you can do. I think another thing is sometimes when something important happens, or maybe when your child is really scared of a skill, or maybe they're scared of not making the team or the lineup or whatever it happens to be, they might need some support going to talk to their coach. So mom or dad might need to go with them to give them moral support and to just make them feel like somebody is on their side. Regardless of what happens with the coach, somebody's on their side. And coaches, how you respond will have a huge impact on what happens the next time, or if the child ever comes back and tells you anything. Because I think all too often what happens is kids are so nervous and so intimidated to talk to their coaches that then they just kind of suffer in silence. And that is not what we want. We want kids to feel comfortable with this. So it might mean mom or dad going with your child, maybe once, maybe a couple of times when they have to talk to their coach. I think another thing that can be done is maybe, depending on the age of the child, they might have a teammate that they feel really comfortable with and they trust. And so maybe they grab their teammate to go along with them to go talk to the coach. And again, it might just be for moral support, but still it's helping them kind of overcome their fears. And the next time it will be easier. And like I said, coaches, how you respond will have a huge impact on what happens next. Another thing that with talking with the coaches, you might have to set up a specific time for your child to go talk to their coaches. And that might be on a day where they don't normally have practice, and it might be before or after practice. I will say this though, the child's probably going to be super nervous. So you might not want to make it after practice, because if they know they're talking to their coach after practice, probably all through practice, that's all they're going to be concentrating on and worried about. And so that might really disrupt their practice. And then that would make it even doubly hard to go talk to your coach if they had a bad practice first. So I would say maybe try to schedule a meeting with the coach either before practice, maybe before all the team comes in, so that there's some time where they don't feel like people are watching them. And it might be something that happens on an off day where you can take them in and they can leave. Another thing that has worked really well with some of my athletes is to have them write a letter to their coach. And I know I had one athlete who said, I gave it to my coach at the end of practice when I left, and then I didn't have practice for a couple of days, like it was a weekend or some break. So she had a couple of days off. And she said that really helped me, because I figured if my coach's response was really bad, then they had a couple of days to not be quite as mad. So by the time they got to her, responded to her, it wasn't going to be the brunt that it might have been if she had done it the night before she had practice the next day. So, and sometimes it's much easier for athletes to write out their thoughts than to actually have to verbalize them. And if they write it out, it also gives them a chance to kind of really get out everything that they want to say. And sometimes especially when you're nervous and you go and talk to your coach, you might end up getting one of the points across that you wanted to say, but maybe you didn't get everything out. And so sometimes writing it down and writing it in a letter is better, just to get it all out. And then maybe you have a follow-up conversation afterwards, but then you feel like you got what you wanted to say out. And sometimes it's just easier because they don't have to face the coach face to face while they're talking to them. And so sometimes that can be really easy. I think another thing is for parents, reward your child. So anytime that they do take a step forward and say something to their coach, regardless of how it goes, I think really positive reinforcement of that and having some kind of reward. It doesn't have to be anything major, but something so that they know that they did a good job and it will reinforce that behavior. And then I think afterwards, it's really important for the parent to ask the child how it went. Because you want to certainly validate anything that they feel. And you might be surprised, they might find that it wasn't nearly as scary as they feared that it was going to be. Usually that's the case. But certainly if something happened, they got yelled at, or the coach said something that was kind of negative, made them feel bad, they're going to need somebody to kind of help them process that and know what the next step is going to be. While I think it's very important for you to ask them how it went and see, how they feel afterwards, I think it's also important to understand that maybe sometimes they won't want to talk about it. And maybe they're not ready to talk about it. Maybe they don't want to ever talk about it. Maybe mom or dad just isn't the person they want to talk to about it. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But I think if you ask them, you've given them the space to tell you whatever they want to tell you from that. And I think that part is really important, and it will make them feel better, even if they choose not to say anything. Another option for some kids, I think, if they're not ready to talk about it, or maybe they haven't even processed it all themselves, is to encourage them to maybe write about it in their journal. And even if they tell you, that's also another, I think, good thing for kids to get used to doing, is to start writing stuff in a journal. It's another avenue for them to process and to get things kind of out. But it's also something that then they have in writing that they could go back and look at later, like the next time they have to go talk to their coach and they're nervous, and you could say, don't you remember last time you were so scared, but it actually wasn't so bad, and remember your coaches were very positive, and why don't you go back and read about it in your journal because you wrote about it. So I think it can serve multiple purposes. So those are the tips that I have for trying to get your child to overcome the fear of talking to their coaches from the parent's perspective. But I also, for all you coaches out there, I really, really feel like it is your responsibility to help create an environment where your athletes feel safe and not intimidated and not worried about any repercussions or punishment that's going to happen if and when they come and talk to you. Okay, if you have any questions, more specific questions about this, please feel free to send me a note or an email after this, and I will be happy to try to answer. All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.